if this were a bear market setup, 2018 by April, May, right? ICOs were like 100% crime. All the ICOs were scams. It's just a different game. It was ICOs back then, and then regulators stomped on that. Now it's meme coins. If you want zero exploitation of permissionless systems, shut them down. The only way to stop people from doing meme coins is to let this dilemma play out where all the people lose all their money.
All the people lose all their money.
My name is Mia, and you're watching Proof of Talk, a short series of podcasts where I'll be interviewing the leading founders and investors in crypto. All interviews are unscripted, meaning the guests have no idea what I'm about to ask, and neither do I.
Proof of Talk.
We're in Hong Kong with Proof of Talk, and today I'm with Kain from Infinex. Kain, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Is this your first time in Hong Kong?
No, I've been to Hong Kong a few times, but the last time was pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID?
Yeah,
it was
so
a while
like
ago.
2018, 2019.
Is it still the same?
It feels a little bit different.
Yeah.
Feels a little bit different post-COVID. I had quite a few friends who were in Hong Kong who are now back in Sydney. So I think like a lot of the expats left during COVID. We actually had someone in Synthetix who was based in Hong Kong. And because of the 2-week hotel quarantine, like every time we'd get on a Zoom and she's like, I'm in day 10. And we'd be like, oh, it's so painful. So I think a lot of people were just like, the 2-week quarantine hotel every time you travel is too much. So
how do you judge the scene here for crypto?
I think it's pretty good. The last time I was here was in a bear market, obviously, right? And so, very different vibe. It feels pretty good. And I think, it feels like this cycle, there's a lot of projects coming out of Asia and a lot of people are here. So it's been a different crowd to say, what you might get at like permissionless in the US or, one of the US-based conferences.
Mm-hmm. For the few people that are watching that don't know what Infinex is, can you give a quick intro?
Sure, yeah. So we are building a platform to make it easy for people to do things on chain. So the idea is that we already know what people want to do in crypto. They want to buy things, they want to hold them, they want to trade perps, but most of that activity is still happening on centralized exchanges. So our goal is to take that activity and bring it on chain.
And so like as you go through the process of launching Infinex, what were some of the biggest challenges you had? I
think we didn't really know how to do it. Was the starting point, right? Like it was not really clear. It was obvious that it needed to happen, that we needed to make a different approach to DeFi. So the purest DeFi approach of like build a dApp, have everything segregated, individual applications, that you connect to a wallet, and you can bring any wallet. All of the kind of permissionless composability aspects of it, I think were great, and we're very successful with that. But we hit a ceiling in terms of adoption. Because the effort for people to educate themselves on how to do that stuff is very high. And so the approach that we took when we were building Infinex was, let's start from the user experience first and build down to DeFi, right? Like all of the functionality is in DeFi, it's just not really accessible to the average person. So we need to find a way to build a layer that makes it accessible, removes the need for learning new concepts, learning new ways of doing things, and lets you interact with on-chain protocols the same way you would interact with Binance. You log in, you click buttons, things happen. You don't have to do signatures and bridging and all of that stuff. So that was the principle of how we wanted to do it. We knew we wanted to build this layer on top of DeFi. The implementation of it was very difficult, because there's a whole bunch of considerations around custody, security, a lot of infrastructure that's been built, and finding the way to put that together in a way that gives you that user experience for a new user or for someone who is not familiar with on-chain applications in DeFi was more challenging than we expected.
It's getting easier to get into crypto, it feels like. And it seems like the average person has more context than they had before, maybe through exposure. Do you feel that, or is this...
I think crypto terms and crypto, vernacular and memes are more mainstream now. But that doesn't mean that someone necessarily knows how to secure a seed phrase. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, you might have heard of Pepe, right? But that doesn't make you qualified to custody your own Pepe, right?
Right.
And so our goal is like, okay, you've heard about crypto, you're interested in crypto. We want to make it easy for you to do things on chain in a way that's safe, and you're not going to get rugged, you're not going to lose your assets, that you have, all of the kind of usability and user experience components that you would expect from Instagram or Facebook. You click a button, something happens.
One challenge that people mention to me often is finding good talent. Because not that many people in crypto compared to other, other industries. And finding someone that is really good and a really good fit for the product sounds to be like a challenge. How do you go about it? Do you have any advice?
So I think we are in a unique position at Infinex because we are more like a Web 2 company. So someone who has Web 2 design experience is going to get it, right? They're just building another product.
Right.
So when you try to build a dApp, you have to teach people all of these dumb ways of doing things, right? That we do in crypto, when you're building censorship-resistant applications that make it really hard for them to do their job, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, hey, I just want to do this. And it's like, oh, you can't. You can't do that. And they're like, oh, okay, how do I do it? And you're like, do it in this way. And they're like, oh, so there's a long education process about how to do things if you're building in a dApp architecture. Infinex is an application. It's a full stack application. So anyone who has experience building full stack applications is going to be like, oh, okay, cool. The only difference is that the back end is a blockchain instead of a database. But we also have databases. So if you don't like blockchains, you can do database stuff. So we found it much easier to find, good people who maybe, to your point, are aware of crypto, interested in crypto, but they're a great designer or they're a great product manager. And they've just been able to kind of come and build in Infinex much easier than my experience would say Synthetix, where it was very hard to find people that, got what we were trying to do and were willing to go down the rabbit hole of learning all of these new ways of doing things.
The year started with a bang, with the Trump token and everything else that followed. People joke that scams are not legal. Like, how are you navigating all of this?
I mean, I've been thinking about this a lot, like a lot of people in the space over the last week, right? You have these moments sometimes, I think, in an industry where you sort of see a shift in sentiment. And I've observed this where there's a shift in sentiment, even in myself, from okay, some bad stuff's happening, but that's, and I've been someone who's advocated for a long time that like bad things will happen, right? If you are doing permissionless innovation, bad people will try to exploit that. If you want zero exploitation of permissionless systems, shut them down. So that's not an option, right? Like we're going to have people come in and grift and do crime and all of that stuff. It's just going to happen. Yeah. But what we don't want to do is have the crime outweigh the good stuff, right? And there was a moment in time where I think that all of the attention was on these very extractive meme coin launches, right? And it's somewhat unsurprising. This is the reflection that I've had, right? I'm a person that is very bullish on markets, right? I think the markets are an incredible force for allocating resources, making the world better. Markets and competition are what allows us to increase the efficiency of society and do a lot of good things, but they're not perfect. Markets are not perfect. I'm not like a laissez-faire, no rules person. I think that, and I'm also not someone that believes that, self-policing is necessarily going to work, right? So what we found ourselves in over the last, say, 6 months, right, is in an environment where we had a very inefficient market for meme coin launches, right? Anyone could turn up to this market. There was not a high barrier to entry to launch meme coins, right? We had really good infrastructure to do it. And so a bunch of people turned up and said, well, the market wants meme coins. I'll satisfy the market by making meme coins, right? And then what we saw is a very rapid emergence of this monopoly-like collusion-based system, right? Where a few people start to become successful. They start to get some traction. They've now got resources because they're making money from extracting, these launches, right? And now you have a few different cabals, right? And this has been a thing that's been talked about for, the last 6 months, like, the LA vape cabal, the Dubai cabal, this cabal, that cabal. It's the equivalent of a company, right? Like, imagine in an emerging market, you have these companies pop up, right? And they start doing things and they're making money and they're growing and people become aware of them. The problem is that in a completely unregulated market that is permissionless and has no barriers to entry, they start to collude, which is exactly what you expect in a market. Like, there's a doctoral dissertation in this market, like looking at how the market's evolved over the last 6 months, and so of course they collude, because if they collude, now all of a sudden the pricing structure of the market, which their goal is to extract maximum value. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to extract as much value as possible, and so the efficiency of their processes becomes better and better. And when they collude, the price goes up. But the price is not price in this case. The price is the amount that they can extract.
Yeah.
And so this collusive monopoly, situation, right, where they basically have these small monopolies that are all colluding with one another to corner the market, and then a couple of them really break out. And they hit like real product market fit, right? And the product market fit is like they found a way to go and bribe people who have attention to post a contract address so that they can really extract maximum value, right? Like this is like, the parabolic product market fit that these scammers found. And they basically got market domination power in the meme coin launch market, right? So these Kelsier guys and a few other people were able to just dominate the market, and this is the end result. Now, there's another interesting thing when you see in a market where people are able to extract maximum rent, right? When they're able to maximize their profits too much, there's like this Malthusian limit where you run out of resources, which is what's happened, right? If you put a bowl of sugar out, right, and you let fungus eat it, it'll eventually, double and double and double until it's consumed all the resources, and then it dies, and there's a crash, right? So you have these like population, and this is a very similar dynamic where these guys have figured out a way to maximally extract value, and then they just got it more and more efficient until they crash the market. And the Argentina coin, like the Milei coin, Libra, was the market crashing, right? Like where they pushed it too far. And I think what was interesting is certainly myself, and I think a lot of people did not realize how much these guys had actually cornered the market. It was not clear from the outside. I still thought there was some competition. There's bundlers and snipers and all of these people kind of competing with one another, but actually it was just like 5 guys. And it was really bad, right? And so, these guys just blew themselves up. And now there's going to be repercussions, for the next while as people kind of figure out exactly what happened here and who had they captured, right? Because the whole point is when you have a monopoly, you start to capture people, right? You start to capture infrastructure. You start to capture things to maximize your profits. And, your profit margins go up and up and up and up. Pricing goes up. In this case, extracting value goes up until the market collapses. And that's what we saw. It was like this microcosm of this monopoly dynamic where someone just destroys the market.
It was crazy. It doesn't seem like it's slowing down. I feel like there's still more to come. Like I can sense it. Like just going around talking with people, like they're not tired yet. People are not done with it. I wonder if it's gonna hit a point where it's gonna be even bigger than that, like 10 times bigger or something even crazier, to a point where people go like, okay, like this needs to stop, or it will just naturally, like calm down because the industry has its trends. How do you see that going from here?
So this is the interesting position that I find myself in, right? As an ETH maxi, recovering ETH maxi, right? Yeah. I know the ETH history, right? We had this same dynamic in 2018, 2019, right? It was peak crime. ICOs were just maximally extractive. The same thing happened. The exact same thing happened, right? You had these cabals of people in like Singapore that were doing ICO mills. They would find a team of people. Now, again, not too dissimilar, right? You would have to find 4 or 5 people, young people who wanted to start a company, and then you put them into this ICO mill where, you know, you make a website for them, you do all this stuff, you release a white paper or whatever, set up, you know, all the thing, and then they would capture more and more of the token supply. These guys, these ICO mills, right? It started at 1%, then 2, then 5, then 10, and it just got to the point where it was just max extracting. And so I find it funny when people are like, oh, Solana, they're just so bad. And it's like, guys, like this is our history as well, right? Like we had the exact same dynamic here. It's just a different game. It was ICOs back then, and then regulators, you know, stomped on that. Now it's meme coins. The problem with meme coins, I think, is there was this perception that meme coins are not securities, right? And therefore anything goes. And I think this is the perception from the people doing crimes now, which is probably a rationalization a little bit, where they're like, it's not a crime, like, you know. And I mean, they're literally doing interviews where they're like, yeah, I did crimes, but like not real crimes, right? And it's like, actually, bro, no, that's a real crime. And so I think there was a very interesting dynamic where we saw these people kind of psyopsing themselves into thinking that this is fine, right? But when you are bribing people and then stealing money from people, you know, through inside information, we saw this in NFTs as well, right?
Yeah.
Like, remember OpenSea? You know, there was someone who was sitting at the intersection of the OpenSea website. They had distribution, right? And they were front running all of the you know, listings on the OpenSea website. Anytime anyone's at the intersection of some distribution thing where they can make money, you need to have good processes around it. And we did not have good processes around meme coins. And the problem was that, again, I think a lot of us, and I'll include myself in this, were a little bit oblivious to how bad it had gotten. We thought, you know, and again, there's so many examples of this in history. You can look at the MEV industry, right, in Ethereum. There's a period of time where a lot of us said MEV is a theoretical construct that's not actually real, right? Because it was not being exploited on Ethereum, because there wasn't enough reason for someone to step up. And then one day, all of a sudden it was. And we were all like, oh, it's actually real, right?
Yeah.
And people were extracting so much money. But it was a very competitive industry, and we saw all of these independent researchers and traders trying to extract as much MEV as possible. And, you know, they were, some of the things they were doing was 100% crime, right? Like, you know, people were doing highly profitable trading strategies, right? But it was just exploiting the market, exploiting information asymmetry and you know, extracting value from the market. And there was a whole debate in Ethereum around this. Like, is MEV crime? Is it bad? Is it good? Does it make the market more efficient? This was not like a black and white thing that everyone agreed on.
Yeah.
But then emerging out of that were flashbots and, you know, a bunch of block building things that kind of collapsed the market from MEV down into like something that was a bit more structured, right? And those people had an incentive to not maximally extract value, right? They were trying to create a market that was sustainable, because the end state, if there's no constraints on something, is you just extract all the value and then the thing dies, right? It's what happened to ICOs. All the ETH was extracted, and then all of those projects were dumping ETH that they were pulling out of the market, and then the ETH market collapsed for like 2.5 years, right? Like, that's the end state of these things if there's no constraints. And so I think that if we don't figure out how to shift the dynamic in these, because people want meme coins. They want meme coins. Like, you're not going to stop them from wanting meme coins, right? So if we don't figure out a way to shift the dynamics here, the same thing will happen. We will have, you know, this maximally extractive situation that will then collapse.
So how do we stop it? Like, where do we draw the line, and how do we bring that on? I think a good comparison that I've heard was that once you give people the guns, you can't take them away. So people are used to it. You can't take away the toys.
Sure.
Do you? I mean, you probably spent some time thinking about it. Do you have any ideas?
So I see pitches all the time, right? And I've got a friend of mine who I won't name, who has a theory on this, which I think is right. which is that they're the people doing the crime, right, are the ones advertising the crime venue, right? So you imagine there's a regulated, friendly casino that's on the Vegas Strip, right? And you know what the rake is, and there's security guards. You're not going to get shanked or whatever, right? And then there's a back alley casino, right, where they're playing 3-card Monte, and they're shivving people and stealing all their money, and taking their organs. Like God knows what's going on back there, right? And you go, well, why would you go into the back alley casino, right, when they've got this regular casino? Like this is a safer, better place, right? And the answer is because the people running the back alley casino are paying people to run out of the alley waving sacks of cash going, look how much money I made, right? And some people are going to be like, ooh, that actually, maybe it's not as bad as I thought over there, but it's just like a complete scam. Right? They're just being tricked into thinking that something good is happening over there. They're tricked into thinking that maybe I can make money out of Libra, right? When there's almost zero chance, right? The rake is 100%. And that's not the case for something like WIF or Pepe, where it was an organic process. And of course there's risk, but a lot of people made money. It's just a very different process. And so what we're seeing now in this very extractive meme coin game is not sustainable. Like you can't, after a while, all the people, there's now stories about all the people that are losing their organs in the back alley casino, right? And people are like, I don't want to go anywhere near any casino. Yeah. This whole place is bad. I don't want to go to Las Vegas at all, right? And so there's a very damaging reputational effect, right? People don't make the distinction between the back alley casino and the regular casino, right? And so it's sort of beholden on us to figure out how to stop the back alley casino from tricking people to go in there, right? How do we create better dynamics, and how do we coordinate around? Because I'll tell you what will happen, right? And this happened with ICOs. If we don't do it, someone with a lot of market power will capture this market, and it will go off-chain again. This happened with ICOs. CZ saw the market being crushed by regulations, whatever, and Binance Launchpad captured the ICO market. They did Matic. They did a bunch of launches in late 2018 all the way through 2019. ICOs went off-chain is what happened. ICOs started on-chain. It was an ETH address. You threw ETH in there. You got tokens. And then CZ was like, that's a pretty good game. I'll take it, and I'll bring it over here. And also, it'll be safer for you, right?
Yeah.
And like someone will do, one of the exchanges, whether it's Binance or whatever, they will absolutely capture this meme coin game if we don't figure out a way to stop what's going on right now.
So someone has to come up with an idea of how to do damage control before like the worst happens.
I think a lot of people, there's a bunch of people that have created better, safer launch pads, right? Better than Pump Fund, whatever. But let's not forget, this is not a Pump Fund problem. The people launching these meme coins are not doing it on Pump Fund. Pump Fund is actually, I mean, this is not amazing to say that, but like Pump Fund's a better casino than what is actually going on is like people are being tricked into going into a dark alley and having their organs harvested, right? Like it's not a casino, right? It's just max exploitation. So you can't just say, well, we've got a better, more positive EV launch pad, come and use it. That's not going to work, right? We need to realize that there are people running around who, and I mean, we haven't solved this in the past. You still have Suzu running around. He's here somewhere. Yeah. He's in Hong Kong. Yeah. Like the guy, and he's kind of ostracized, but like he started that, Ox Fund side. And
people don't care.
People are kind of like some people do. Definitely some people do, but he hasn't been like run out of town. Right. And so, how do you kind of, socially coordinate to get the LA vape cabal out? Because the problem is that there are people that look up to those people. There's people who look up to Suzu, right? They're like, yeah, he's good. He did a good thing, right? Got a bit unlucky with the scam borrowing $10 billion situation. That was a bit unlucky, but he's a good guy. He's a smart guy. And so I think that there's a very difficult problem in coordinating around these things, right? Because it's the court of public opinion and it happens on crypto Twitter. And that place is a dark place. It's hard to get truth in crypto Twitter, unfortunately.
Yeah. Is it symptomatic of the industry? Like, is it technically like most likely going to happen? And if so, are we going to be pulled back into like a bear market?
It's symptomatic of permissionless systems, right?
Yeah.
And you know, like I've said this many times. If you had a choice to go back in time to 2015, right? The Mastercoin ICO, which is the thing that started this whole process off, right? And you could kill that ICO, stop it from ever happening, stop all of ICOs from happening. Would you? You know, would that be a good outcome?
I don't think anyone would.
No one would do that.
Yeah.
What, like you lose Ethereum? I mean, maybe Bitcoin maxis. Bitcoin maxis might say yes, let's do it. But you lose Ethereum, you lose Aave, you know, you lose all of these amazing projects that came out of the ICO era, and it's like that is just a cost of having permissionless innovation. You know, people will come and they will grift and the markets will shift and, you know, there'll be a shift towards euphoria and it'll be max grifting and then, you know, it'll wash out and some people will stay, some people will go. The people who stay and keep building will build cool shit. But without that euphoria and without that kind of permissionless innovation, you wouldn't have any capital, right? There would be no capital to do anything. And so it's a harsh trade-off, right? But if you say, I want permissionless innovation with zero crime, it's not possible. You can't have it, right?
Yeah.
And so but that doesn't mean throwing your hands up and saying, well, you know, I'm just going to equivocate everything and everything's fine and, you know, whatever, right? We should still do our best to maximize the efficiency of the market, right? That's the obligation that we have. We shouldn't just go, yeah, everything's fine, right? But it's not a trivial problem to solve. It's a hard problem to solve, and so you know we need to find ways to create market dynamics and incentive structures that incentivize people to do the things they want to do. You're not going to stop people from doing meme coins. That's not going to happen. The only way to stop people from doing meme coins is to let this dilemma play out where all the people lose all their money.
Yeah. That
That will do it. Right? That will do it.
Just exhaust the market.
Just exhaust the market, right? That will do it. That would be bad. We saw this with ICOs. It happened with NFTs. NFTs, people got to the point where, and you know, again, people have short memories, right? Ashton Kutcher turned up and it was like, well, let's go and get some celebrities and bring them in and get them to do an NFT set and launch it. And so, you know, this has been a problem forever, right? Find someone with attention, combine them with this new money game and extract value, right?
Yeah.
It's not going to stop, but we have the ability to build systems and incentives so that we can minimize it, right? That's the only goal. Minimize it. You're not going to remove it completely.
I think also, like, as we bump into the same problem over and over again, someone will have more information, let's say, to build like a more robust solution for it. So, for example, in this case would be something that would have worked during ICO, during NFTs, and now for meme coins. What happens next? What's your prediction? Like, how is this going to play out?
I'm optimistic because I think that we are not yet in a macro bear market, right? We may be in a bear market for meme coins, and this has been the interesting thing over the last couple of cycles for me is the correlation one issue that we had for a long time in crypto, where just everything is perfectly correlated. You know, there's a little bit of beta to Bitcoin, but basically everything goes up together, everything goes down together. That correlation broke a while ago, right? We saw DeFi has underperformed for a long time. A bunch of DeFi tokens have underperformed. AI had this, you know, crazy wave of adoption, you know, euphoria, and then died off. We've seen the decoupling of things, meme coins, etc. And so we have Bitcoin sitting around all-time highs, right? You know, 10% off all-time highs. So the macro crypto market is still well positioned. We just have to get our shit together.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's okay for people to do meme coins, but if that's 99% of the attention, we're going to be in a bad place, right? So we need to find ways to refocus on things that are working, on things that are going to, drive more adoption and more utility, and not be, sort of not to get bogged down by like financial nihilism, right? Which is, we kind of got into that point where I think a lot of people are like, oh, meme coins, like, what are you going to do, right?
Yeah.
And so, we need to not succumb to that and kind of fight that urge to just be like,
just still care.
we have to still care.
Yeah.
And again, I think this is not a bear market setup, right? If this were a bear market setup, 2018 by April, May, right? ICOs were like 100% crime. All the ICOs were scams. I can't think of a single ICO that happened after May of 2018 that didn't completely rug everyone, right? It was all adverse selection, right? And we were in a macro bear setup at that point. Bitcoin was down, ETH was down, and then it was just the unwinding of the entire thing through 2018 and 2019. So I don't think we're there. I think the market is actually better positioned, but we need to figure out how we deal with this microstructure of meme coins and not let it overwhelm the entire macro structure of crypto, not let it overwhelm all the attention.
Yeah, makes sense. Is there anything exciting coming up for Infinex?
So, funnily enough, Infinex has been working on rolling out a bunch more chains. So we've added Unichain, we've added Berachain, we're going to add Binance Smart Chain as well. I guess people have started calling it BNB, which is weird, but we're adding BNB, I guess. Not the asset, but the chain. And we're rolling out a lot of different providers to give people access to liquidity across many different chains. And we're also rolling out a much improved yield strategy. So give you the top yield opportunities on different chains. So we're working to provide as much utility as possible, and to surface the projects that are doing really cool, innovative stuff. And that's kind of the goal.
That's really cool. For everyone watching, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter. You can put my handle in the show notes, I guess.
They'll tag you. Yeah. Kain, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Proof of Talk.